Hey. So when the Jonas Brothers announced that they were going on tour, I got tickets that exact morning. The seats were really bad. They were in the nosebleeds in MetLife Stadium, which I had never been to before. But when I was 9, Camp Rock was it was everything to me. It was my entire personality. I think I'm such a big fan of the Jonas Brothers and Camp Rock because it's one of the few things I remember from my childhood. I generally don't remember most of my childhood memories. Is it the trauma, the hours I've spent scrolling, brain rot, the depression? Who knows? I don't remember my real life childhood memories, but best believe I remember how high the stakes were at the final jam. Best believe I was on the edge of my seat when Shane Gray realized it was Mitchie all along. He's Shane Gray for crying out loud. Anyways, I feel like I tried to trick the other kids around me into thinking I was secretly supposed to be in the next Camp Rock movie. Like, I was supposed to be in the video. It was generally my obsession. Fast forward to everything happening within the last 16 years, all the growing up I did, all the lessons I learned going into adulthood, all the pain and heartache I experienced from everyone around me, and all the things that didn't work out and brought me to rock bottom. I had to work myself up and find myself again. And then I turn around during this trying time and the Jonas Brothers announce a tour, 20th anniversary tour. I just knew it was going to be life-changing, but I didn't think it was going to be this life-changing. So closer to the date, I saw that they said they were going to bring out some surprise guests. And I remember us all thinking like, oh my gosh, it's going to be Miley or Demi. But in my head, that was so far-fetched because it would have been insane. So I knew Marshmello was going to be one of the guests because they have songs with Marshmello. But I didn't expect him to play an entire EDM set in the middle of the concert. I love EDM. That was such a treat. I was losing my mind because Marshmello is one of those DJs that has such nostalgic songs for me. They're so good at what they do. Switchfoot and Dean Lewis were also two guests, but I wasn't expecting them to come out. But what I did not expect even more was for Jesse McCartney to come running out on stage and singing Beautiful Soul. Jonas Brothers singing SOS was nostalgic enough, but for Beautiful Soul to be sung in front of me, I just started sobbing. It was truly a surprise. I sobbed. I saw online someone said that Jesse McCartney deserved to have a whole stadium of people singing his song back to him after all this time to remind him how much he's loved. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. Because name a bigger icon than Jesse McCartney. And I didn't even mention the All-American Rejects opened for his concert. Tyson Ritter, who's the lead singer, is one of my actual real celebrity crushes. I don't think I'd be starstruck around most people because I've seen my fair share of celebrities, but Tyson Ritter, are you joking? When I saw that the All-American Rejects made an OnlyFans, yeah, I subscribed so fast. And that's saying a lot because I never fall for the lust of men. I mean, they don't post racy stuff anyways, but it's okay. If I go too deep into this, I'm going to sound insane and parasocial, but just know if anyone ever asks me who my celebrity crush is, it's Tyson Ritter and Joe Jonas. Point blank period. Now, the part that broke the internet is obviously when Demi came out. I need everybody to know that I could not hear her singing in the beginning because the stadium was screaming so loud, including me, and everybody was crying. Everybody, even in the nosebleeds, we were crying. It was insane. I might sound like a broken record by saying that it was such a healing experience, but describing it any other way would be an injustice to the true impact it had on me and everyone else who grew up loving, the Jonas Brothers, Demi Lovato, Camp Rock, and just Disney in general. It was also special because they're from New Jersey. The concert was in New Jersey, where I'm also from, and it was the first show of the tour. And at the end of the concert, there were fireworks, which I didn't know you could do that in MetLife Stadium, but it was so cool. It was so surreal, and it really felt like an out-of-body experience. Now, I went with one of my long-term friends. She lives 2 states away. But when I bought tickets, I bought 2, so I could easily just find someone to come with me. And I figured I'd buy the tickets now and then find someone to come with me later. So I ended up asking this friend. She said yes, and we were both so excited. She knows I don't drink. And it's not even that I don't drink. I physically cannot drink alcohol. Story time. I used to be a heavy drinker, and one night I drank too much without eating, and then I drank caffeine the next morning when I was still drunk, along with some, spicy stew in K-Town in Manhattan, and I had to get rushed to the emergency room because I was about to go into cardiac arrest. My heart rate was 180 beats per minute, and everyone around me was telling me, oh, you just need to like lay down, relax, take a warm bath, like your heart rate will go down. But I knew deep down that something was wrong, and I just said, like, I know what I'm feeling right now, and when I try to relax, it actually gets worse. Like, I need someone to bring me to the ER right now, because at that point it had been hours after it started and the constant rate of 180 beats per minute. At the emergency room, they put in an IV and injected me with beta blockers, so they helped my heart slow down. They said I had tachycardia and they recommended a cardiologist, to make a long story short. But fast forward to now, I can't drink alcohol and my caffeine is limited to 50 milligrams per day, which isn't even a shot of espresso. And even when I eat a lot of sugar, I'll start to get heart palpitations. Anyway, so back to the point. My friend, she's a big, heavy drinker. She likes Adderall, cocaine, alcohol, and I'm totally cool with whatever she wants to do. Anything anyone ever wants to do with around me, like whatever, it's cool. I encourage her to enjoy herself when we hang out, but what's not cool is that she always tries to force alcohol on me because she thinks that my heart issue is just in my head, or it's just like anxiety, which is the reason I almost died in the first place, because everyone thought it was just in my head and they weren't believing me when I told them something's wrong and that my heart was about to explode. And she said that to me when we were getting ready for the concert, but I just brush it off because I try not to hold things against people for not understanding an issue fully, even though I felt like I made it obvious. But yeah, so she was super drunk, I was sober, and we kind of like, for that reason, weren't really on the same wavelength for the concert. So that was an event for sure. But I wanted to touch on the friendship topic because ever since I experienced that hiccup with my friend at the concert, funnily enough, a couple days later, the situation with my other friend actually exploded. This is a friend that I work with, so I feel like I should just call them my coworker. This still stings and gives me a lot of anxiety, but I really want to talk about this. So this past June at Gov Ball, the music festival in New York, I went with some coworkers who I considered to be friends with me. Long story short, I spent $60 on the Uber to the venue. 6 people in the Uber with me. Well, 5 people including me, not including me. And none of them to this day paid me their portion of the bill. When we got to the festival, they ditched me. I waited in line for over an hour, and then I finally reached out to them and said, hey, like, where'd you guys go? And they say, oh, we've been inside. And when I finally found them, they acted like I wasn't even there. So I just left the entire festival and asked my one coworker friend via text, like, hey, why were they acting like that? But since that person I texted was drunk, they showed the person I was talking about, they showed them my text. And obviously they got offended, understandably, if they didn't understand, why I was upset. They told everyone at work that I went around calling them names and just made it seem like they were the victim when I was the one who was done dirty. Because if you do something hurtful and I point it out, why am I not now the bad guy for pointing it out? So then it was awkward at work for a while, but it started to simmer down. Fast forward to a couple days ago, I'm thinking, all right, it's been over 2 months since the festival, and it just really bothered me that they never Venmo'd me for the Uber ride. This bothered me because I feel like whenever I'm nice to people, they take advantage of me. Because one time at a previous job, I lent $1,200 to somebody who I thought cared about me because they were about to be homeless. They were living in a hotel because their credit was so bad they could only afford to live in a hotel. But the manager of the hotel changed and they raised the prices. So they said, you have 2 weeks to pay this or you're getting kicked out and you'll be homeless. So they're crying outside. I'm like, you know what, I'll just like give you the money or whatever. I went to the ATM and I literally gave them $1,200 in cash. They ended up buying a house, getting a raise, and never tried paying me back. And we lost contact. I don't have their contact information. But it always reminds me of that situation where I got walked all over for being nice. They knew I expected them to split the bill for the Uber, so it wasn't me being like, oh, you don't have to pay me back. Like, they knew they were supposed to pay me back. Yeah, I can afford $60, but, it's the principle of the situation. So I go to the one girl who I was more cool with at the time, and I asked if she could give me the numbers of the people who shared the Uber with me because 3 of them didn't work with us. She said she could just ask them for me, so I was like, oh, awesome, thanks. Like, I sent her my Venmo information and stuff. And then I added that she could also ask the other coworker if she wants because they're closer to them. And that's the coworker that started saying stuff about me when I asked why they were acting like that at the festival. So I kind of did this gesture that showed I was like a little burdened because I'm annoyed that I have to track down 5 people to Venmo me because they probably thought I'd forget about it or didn't remember themselves or whatever. So I was like, yeah, if you want to ask them too, it's okay. Like, kind of rolling my eyes a bit. She leaves. And then 2 seconds later, she comes back and she crosses her arms and she's like, I don't like how you just rolled your eyes when you said my friend's name. This was very confrontational too. And I could tell she was starting something. And I was so taken aback because, first of all, she said, I don't like how you rolled your eyes at my friend. Girl, I thought we were friends. So I was taken aback because I thought we were friends too. So that wording felt very alienating. Like, she was saying, like, that's my friend, you are not. So what about it? I didn't know she didn't consider me a friend anymore because months prior she had me over at her house with her family for like a Christmas party. So that was the first knife that twisted in me. The next was when I told her I think she misunderstood my gesture and she just kept doubling down. She left again and told the girl that I rolled my eyes at her. So then I had to go to that other friend and say, hey, just so you know, I didn't roll my eyes. Like, I know that you were just told that I did, but I didn't. It was a misunderstanding, and now it's becoming another issue with drama. Surprisingly, this girl was understanding. She's like, oh my God, no, it's totally okay. So now I'm trying to figure out why the other girl tried to insert herself like that when this drama was supposed to be put to rest months ago. Like, she wasn't even involved as much. And I stood there at work and I just started sobbing. In the middle of the workday, I just sobbed. And my other coworkers were so confused because I never show emotion like that. And all of a sudden, I'm just uncontrollably losing it. My job is so stressful as it is, but adding drama makes me feel like I'm about to have an aneurysm every single day. I get scared. Like, I feel like nobody should be this stressed every day. But you know what's interesting is that there was always still that tension at work since the festival. The gossip made its way around, which I'm more quiet of a person, so most people didn't hear my side, which was really frustrating because they're just hearing that I said something about that girl, but not everything else that led up to it. I also never got my boots back that I lent out to that girl, which had sentimental meaning to me. I wore those boots on a very special day for me, and I wanted them back. So the tension just came to this moment that boiled over into that situation a couple days ago. When I talk about this situation to people, their first response is always, this is why I don't hang out with coworkers, or this is why I don't do that. And it makes me feel this combination of like shame and insecurity. I feel like I'm being shamed. Of course, I'd like to be able to hang out with friends and have a life outside of work and not have to worry about silly drama due to platonic and or romantic relationships at work. But it's low-key written in the stars for me, I fear. It just happens for me. I don't know. So they say, this is why you don't hang with coworkers. That's why you don't date coworkers. But let me ask you this, my love. What's the alternative in this day and age? I don't live in a city. I live in the middle of the woods. I do online university full-time. I don't have the time or energy to invest in a friendship via online app or go to, this and that place just specifically to meet a friend. And when people say like, oh, just go to like the library and try to meet friends, you don't just walk up to strangers in the library. Like, am I missing something? Whenever people say that, I'm so confused. People say, oh, you can meet people in coffee shops. How? Do I just walk up to a random table and say hi? I've never seen anybody do that. Does that actually work? Let me know, because that's such a bold thing I can't imagine myself doing, but do people actually do that? But one thing I noticed is that when your job is traumatizing or chaotic, you bond with your coworkers well. I read something that going through emotional experiences makes you closer to someone, and there's so many emotional situations at work due to all the chaos that happens. And I can't really talk about my job on here because I need it at least for the next year. But once that time is up, best believe I'm gonna spill. So here, you have this bond with someone that you see multiple times a week. Add on to that, you have things in common with them or a similar sense of humor. It makes you want to hang out sometime. I've hung out with coworkers before with no drama, and things were so fun. I went bowling with 3 coworkers that I currently work with, not the ones from the govball situation. But then we went bowling, we got ice cream, and it was so fun. We talked about existential topics, kind of like how we do here, and I had a blast. Okay, I'm realizing now that it might have gone smoothly because alcohol wasn't involved. And at Govball, everybody was drunk. except for me, obviously, because there was another coworker outing that happened at my job that I didn't attend because I had to wake up early to catch a train the next morning. But it got really crazy because they were all so drunk, and one of them tried kissing the other. Someone just like wouldn't leave the other person's house. One person tried to drive home like wasted when they have like a daughter at home. It gets messy when alcohol is involved, I fear. Despite everything, though, I would hang out with coworkers again, but alcohol would just have to not be involved. It would have to be more of a lighthearted kind of thing, you know? You know what also really bothered me is that yesterday, and I almost said something. Yesterday, the coworker who said, I don't like how you are my friend, literally started making plans with them in front of me, including the guy that I liked. Isn't that crazy? Do we talk about boys on here? I don't know. I'm at work yesterday. There's tension, as there has been, and this one girl starts making plans with three of the coworkers around me, obviously not including me. I wasn't expecting to be included, but it really sucks because they were being so cliquey and purposely excluding me. And once again, it's such an alienating feeling when you want to feel like you're part of a team, but you're purposely being excluded for silly reasons too. So I went up to the guy because I heard that she was trying to include him, and I said, "Are y'all planning another outing? I know I'm not invited, but I just overheard." And they were like, "I don't know," which means yes. So I said, "I think that means yes." And they were like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I was like, "Well, I heard y'all are talking about it like on the floor when everyone can hear." And it's not just alienating to me, it's also alienating to other people who also aren't being invited, because there were maybe 7 people around at the same time and only 3 of them were going to this get together. So, and I was like, I didn't want to go anyway. Like, y'all are whack. I literally I'm salty. And I told him, I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm just salty. Like, I literally don't care. But it's not right to talk about plans in front of people who aren't invited. I think that's just something you should never do. But I think it's okay to hang out with coworkers. Like, if I start from scratch, I would hang out with coworkers again. And if you want to hang out with coworkers too, I feel like that's totally fine, you know? But you have to ask yourself, will I still be okay if things go south? Can I still work here comfortably if things go wrong with this person or if things go wrong with these people? Do I know this person well enough to risk an awkward work situation? What is our conflict resolution like? The thing is, if it's a job you'll be at for a while or a job that you need, these are important questions to ask, because when there's tension at work, being there will feel unbearable. That uncomfortable feeling just won't end when you feel tension. Your coworkers can make or break your entire work experience. So it's best to tread lightly and learn from my mistakes. It's your life and you can do what you want. I want for you whatever you want for you. So there it is. Good luck.